You finish your script and now you're staring at it thinking, okay, now what? And this is the moment where most filmmakers either move their project forward or they lose years going in the wrong direction. So I'm gonna walk you through exactly what to do after you finish your script so that you don't send it out too early or waste time or stall out using 3 clear steps. I'm Joyce Mishaan. I'm a filmmaker, executive producer with almost 20 years of experience in film and TV, and I help independent filmmakers raise capital and get their projects funded strategically. So before anything else, before you send it to anyone, before you pitch it, before you even start talking about it publicly, you need to answer one question honestly, and that's, is this script actually ready? And I want to slow this down because this is where most people go wrong. And what usually happens is you finish a draft, you feel relieved, maybe you feel excited, and then you think, okay, let me start getting this out there. But the problem is if you send your script out too early, then you're using up your opportunities on something that's not really ready yet. And in this industry, first impressions really stick. Okay, so if a producer reads your script and it's not there yet, they're not thinking, oh, I'll check back in 6 months, right? They're gonna move on. So instead, what you wanna do is pressure test your script. That means getting multiple layers of feedback and not just your friend who's gonna tell you, I love it, right? You want people who understand story and structure, people who are honest, and ideally people who are closer to the industry, okay? That can look like writers groups or industry peers, professional coverage. And what you're looking for is not everybody agreeing, right? You're looking for patterns. If 3 different people point out that Act 2 drags, for example, that's real, right? And if multiple people are confused about your main character's motivation, that's something to pay attention to. And then there's one very specific filter that I always tell people to use, and that's the first 10 pages test. Because a lot of the time that's as far as someone gets before they decide whether they're gonna keep reading, right? Myself included. So here's a practical way for you to test this. Give your first 10 pages to somebody who doesn't know your project at all. Don't explain anything, don't sell it, right? Just send it and ask, would you keep reading? And then you can ask a second question, which is, what are you expecting this story to be? Because if their answer is wildly different from what you intended, that's a signal that your setup isn't landing yet. Okay, and this step alone, done well, can save you months or even years. Okay, step 2 is decide your path before you start moving. Once your script is strong, the next question is not, who do I send this to? The question is, what is my path for getting this made? And most filmmakers skip this, right? They start emailing or submitting or entering contests and festivals, reaching out without a strategy. And that creates a lot of motion without any progress. So let's simplify this. There are 3 primary paths that your script can take. Option 1 is you produce it yourself. This is where you're the driving force behind getting the film made. You're not waiting for somebody to discover it, you're building it. And that means that you're thinking about budget, you're building a team, you're figuring out how this gets financed, right? And this is actually the path that more filmmakers are taking right now, but it requires a shift, right? You're no longer just a writer, then you're stepping into a producer mindset. Okay, option 2 is you attach a producer or a company. This is where your script attracts somebody who already has experience, relationships, access. And so here's the key with this. That only happens if your script and your materials signal that this is a viable project. And this is where people talk about options or development deals. But what really matters here is, are you giving somebody enough confidence that this is worth their time and their reputation? Because producers are not just looking for good writing, right? They're looking for something that they believe can actually get made and that has commercial value. Option 3 is that you use the script as a sample. And this is one that actually a lot of people overlooked. Your script might not be the first thing that gets produced, but it can absolutely be the thing that gets you representation, gets you meetings, or gets you hired as a writer, right? So instead of asking, how do I get this made right now? The question you're asking is, how does this open doors for me? And all of these three paths are valid, right? But here's the important part. You have to pick one for now, right? Because if you don't choose, you end up doing a little bit of everything and not moving forward in any direction. A lot of people get through steps 1 and 2, and then they stop and they wait and they think, I just need one more round of notes, or I just need to feel more ready. I just need the right person to say yes. And then they stay in that loop for a really long time. But the people who actually get films made do something different, right? They start building momentum around the project. And that might look like creating a simple one-pager or a pitch document. It's starting a conversation with potential collaborators, reaching out to people in a thoughtful and strategic way, or even just clearly articulating what this project is and why it matters. Because here's the shift, okay? You're no longer just someone who wrote a script. You're somebody who's moving a project forward. And that energy is what people respond to. So a simple place here to start is to write out in plain language, what is this film about? Why does it matter? And who is it for? And not in a film school kind of way, right? In a way that somebody outside the industry could understand. Because that clarity becomes the foundation for your pitch, for your conversations, and eventually for your financing. Okay, so now that you know what to do after finishing your script, the next question becomes, how do I actually position this project so that somebody says yes, whether that's a producer, a partner, or an investor? And that's where most projects fall apart. So let's go there next, and I'll show you how to do that here.